Welcome back to Fox and Friends First. U.S.-designated terror group Hamas now calling for 3 days of rage in response to the president's declaration of Jerusalem as Israel's capital city. As protesters take to the streets to burn flags and denounce the historic decision, it is a monumental moment for our allies in Israel. But could this push the world further apart from a peace agreement in that region? Here now to react is the managing director of the Israel Project, Omri. Ceren, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me. So
the fires, the protesting, burning the American flag, the Israeli flag, it's already begun.
Yeah, it has already begun, and we don't know how bad it'll get. The administration knew that something like this was going to happen, and they budgeted in. But what they decided was that the cost of not doing it was outweighed by the cost of doing it. Really, what they wanted to make sure was that the president lived up to his campaign promise, which was to recognize Jerusalem as the capital.
Right, and moving the U.S. embassy to Jerusalem as well.
That's right. He began the process of locating a place, building it out. You know, this will take years, and the administration's been very forthright that it'll take years. We have standards for our embassies. It takes time.
And is that a compromise in a way? Because from what I understand from some of the reports I've read, there was a place where they could have, opened it almost immediately.
Yeah, we have a couple of places in Jerusalem where we can place our diplomats, and they're all candidates. But really what the president wants to make sure and the administration wants to make sure is that the process is followed, that there's security when it finally opens. You know, the State Department has very strict guidelines on these things, and it takes years.
And Benjamin Netanyahu used the word courageous and just in terms of what President Trump announced yesterday.
I think that that's exactly right. The president faced international opposition. He faced domestic opposition. But really, he looked at this and he said, Jerusalem is Israel's capital. In reality, this is where the Israelis run their government out of, and it's time to acknowledge that, in addition to the fact that it's American law for over 20 years.
Yeah, it was a congressional mandate. Going back, 25 years?
Right.
In 1995, Congress enacted this Jerusalem Embassy Act?
That's right. Congress said, in as many words, that it's U.S. policy that Jerusalem is Israel's capital, that we should move the embassy there. And, this has been Congress's view all the way through summer of this year. In June of 2017, there was a Senate resolution that passed 90-0 calling on the president to recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, which is why it's so absurd that Democrats are coming out against him
That's
right now.
What I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
So why are Democrats against it now? Because it's President Trump versus President Obama?
This is one of the things people are talking about this morning. It's very difficult to figure out why Democrats like Senator Feinstein, who just a few months ago was saying that the embassy should be moved and that Israel's capital should be recognized, is now coming out against it and saying that it's a bad idea.
Yeah, in terms of the UN and former President Obama, who I just mentioned, he didn't do Israel any favors there, though.
No, in fact, almost exactly a year ago, we were looking at a situation in which the Obama administration was was twisting arms with some countries, working with other countries to actually deny Israel's right to all of their historic capital in Jerusalem. And one of the most important parts of what President Trump did yesterday is he said effectively that that's not what U.S. policy is, that U.S. policy is what it's always been, which is that Jerusalem is Israel's capital.
All right. Well, 3 days of rage Palestinians calling for, or Hamas is calling for, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully that will not occur.
Hopefully.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
We'll follow you on Twitter.
Thank you.